The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Page, and I'm the Senior Law Librarian on staff here at Fast Case Legal Research. We still have a bunch of attendees joining us, so I'm just going to give it a minute to ensure that everybody is logged in and can see the full presentation. We'll begin our content in just a moment, just giving everybody a chance to log in.
SBA posted memos. All right, everyone, I think you can hear me. I think we're almost ready to get started. We just have one or two more people signing in, and then we'll be set. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. As I mentioned, my name is Erin Page. I'm the Senior Law Librarian on staff with Fast Case Legal Research, and I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Michael Sander. He is the founder of Docket Alarm and will be taking us through today's presentation. If you have any questions, your GoToWebinar pop-up has a big question mark button. That is where you would enter your questions for today's presentation, and we will be looking at the questions throughout the presentation as well as towards the end for brief question and answer. All right, Michael, turning it over to you.
Hi, thank you so much, Erin. So today, the original plan was to kind of go over the Docket Alarm story, kind of given we do, but given the events recently, I think it was appropriate to kind of shift slightly, and we'll be covering mostly the same material, but I wanted to kind of shift it into something that's a little bit more relevant to what attorneys might be doing today and some of the actual issues that are popping up that we're seeing today in light of COVID-19. So I'm going to start with just a brief background about what the company is doing, how Docket Alarm helps Docket Alarm helps attorneys, and why it was actually originally founded in the first place. And then we'll kind of go into some actual examples of what we're doing, or how this tool can be used in the current, the current crisis that our nation is facing. And how ultimately you can use these tools to effectively represent your clients. So just to kind of go through a few slides, but we're pretty quickly going to go right into the demo, so you can actually see some real information. So just to give you a little bit of background, I'm the founder of Docket Alarm. My name is Michael Sander. I started my career off as an engineer working in safety critical devices. basically like actually healthcare equipment, and also airplanes, airplane flight controllers, that sort of thing. Then I became an intellectual property attorney working on patent litigation. I did that for about 3 or 4 years. And, the thing is, I've always been a techie. I've always been very much into using technology to make, my whatever job I'm doing, whether that's in engineering or in law, more efficient. And, when I was a patent attorney, it always felt that we were representing these very high-tech clients, but we, as attorneys, didn't really have very good technology. So simple things like checking to see what was going on in a case, doing searches across many cases, active litigation cases, just wasn't so easy to. There was many tools for taking a look at case law to see like the major opinions that are coming out, but there weren't so many good tools for looking on active cases, seeing motions that were filed, seeing the complaints that were filed, seeing how people responded in answers, and so forth, and then also beyond even just opinion, other court orders as well. So we'll get into a few of these things later on today. But when I was working at this law firm, I got so frustrated that I started building these little kind of helper tools for me on my nights and my weekends. And these helper tools did lots of little tiny things that made my practice a little bit easier. And then over time, those tools turned into something a little bit bigger. They kind of got pulled together into a website. I at some point came up with a name, Docket Alarm, for the website. And then a few attorney friends, colleagues at my law firm I was at, they asked me for for an account so they can log in. And this was years ago. The website looks completely different today, but it was already useful then. And at some point, we had about 10 or 15 people in my law firm using it, all completely for free. And all of a sudden, completely by just word of mouth, I got a few phone calls from other law firms saying, "Hey, we heard that so-and-so has talked to so-and-so, and they said that we should take a look at this thing." And we got basically 3 law firms signed up that way. This is without any marketing. I wasn't doing webinars like this. It was completely just a word of mouth type of marketing strategy, if you can call it a strategy at the time. So we got those 3 law firms. Eventually, I saw that this could be a viable company, and I quit my law firm job to go out and do it on my own. And that was in 2015. It was almost 5 years ago, which is hard to believe. That's August 2015. And then, I continued it on my own for quite some time until 2018. But early on, I recognized that Fastcase was a very special company, providing legal research services to hundreds of thousands of attorneys across the country at a rate that many practices could actually afford. And I found that to be very inspiring. They had a very good, everybody on this call probably is familiar with Fastcase, but not only do they have a very good product, but they had a very good mission as well. And I thought that, as we talked more and more, our products are very complementary. Fastcase is excellent at finding legal research performing legal research, finding opinions. Docket Alarm is a component for active litigation, trying to figure out what's going on in litigation and so forth. This is our standard slide deck outside of the COVID-19. But just to give you a general sense, most of the people who are using it, I'd say 80% of our users are lawyers at law firms, but there's quite a few others as well. And I know we have a bunch of big fancy law firms as our clients on the right, but there are many, many medium-sized, small law firms, solos that are using this as well. So what is it that we actually do, and how can we actually help in a national crisis like this, however small? There's 4 main functions that people really try to do with Docket Alarm. One is tracking the cases and just staying on top of what's going on in the legal space and also in particular with respect to your clients. And I'll get into that considerably more because that's, I think, the most relevant for what we're actually facing here. Number 2 is searching, being able to find cases, pleadings, motions, you name it, across the entire space of the litigation landscape. And then also analytics. Analytics is kind of the opposite in many ways of searching. I'll show you some analytics. I don't think it's quite relevant for for COVID-19, but I think in the coming months it might become immediately relevant right now. But maybe towards the end, I'll give it a little show of that. And then finally, our API, which is for integrating the service into other platforms. Again, this is probably not relevant for this talk, so I'll kind of leave it at that. Let's just start off with tracking and what that really entails. Again, when we talk about tracking, we're really talking about staying up to date on your own litigation, as well as staying up to date on other people's litigation, like knowing what's going on in the law. And we do this currently with news services. That's their standard way of staying up to date, at least with COVID-19. However, you know, I've spoken to journalists during this time period, and I can tell you not everything's getting picked up, especially the very detailed issues. Yes, in the coming weeks and months, there will be probably many articles written about these things, but for information that you have to have, the actionable right now, for information that's actionable right now, you have to be looking at the dockets. So with that, let us jump right into demo. Let me shut down Slack so we don't get interrupted. Excuse me. I just want to show the interface quickly. Then we're going to just run into some searches that we can kind of analyze. So this is the interface when you first log into Docket Alarm. Idea here is that you're going to have a snapshot of all of your cases that you're actively tracking. I have quite a few of them, as you can see down here. And this is really where you're going to be managing your litigation. So I just want to take a look at standard piece litigation, then we're going to go right into the coronavirus cases, so many of which are actually popping up very quickly. Which one should I pick? There's so many in here. I think what we're going to do is, let's find, here you can see there's a case involving fast case. So here what we're going to be doing, I just pulled up a case in New York State of New York versus Deutsche Telekom. This case is in New York Southern District Court. It's a federal case. Docket Alarm has state court cases, federal court cases. I'll get into our coverage in just a few minutes. But if you're familiar with litigation, this page might look familiar to you. We pulled this directly from Pacer. So Pacer is a federal system for both filing and pulling court document information. You can see we have the full docket text down here. In addition, we have the companies, plaintiffs, and the defendants, and all the other parties on the left-hand side. And you can just click on them to get a quick snapshot of who the attorneys are. You can copy that to the clipboard and paste that elsewhere. So you can get a very quick snapshot of who's on this case and who's representing who in this case. On the top half, we have basic information about the case. And then further down, we have the docket sheet. So the docket sheet lists all of the events that occurred in the past. This is something that you would pull directly up a Pacer. So this is very, very helpful. You can actually set up trackers up here on the top, and you can set up. I think we have this currently set up for a weekly alert, but we have a twice daily alert. We have a continuous alert that operates very, very quickly. So there's a lot of different options for what you want to have this alert actually tracking. You can also attach filings, email the filings. We can actually download the filings as they're filed and attach them to the email alert that we send. So this can be a very helpful tool. What's always frustrated me as a lawyer is, you would get an alert saying that, hey, something was filed in court, but then, you have to click on a bunch of stuff and download a bunch of documents to actually see what was happening. There's nothing more frustrating than saying, hey, a motion was just filed against your client. And then, you have to go and click and enter a password and a username just to see what that motion is. With Docket Alarm, we download that document, we send it as an attachment to the email so you can open it on your phone and read it immediately, which is a very nice feature. There's some other nice features that you get on top of Pacer besides tracking and downloading these attachments. We also actually pull out upcoming events. We can actually tell you, we actually analyze all of the scheduling orders that have been filed in the case. And we can actually tell you what is going to be happening in the case. Now, this is not a terribly interesting one. There's a release of transcript restriction set, but in many other cases, you'll see motion hearings and a variety of other types of upcoming events in the case. And if you want to see where we got this from, where this release of transcript restriction set came from, you can just click the source button here, You can see way down on, in the middle of this docket sheet, you can see that the one docket entry actually mentions the release of the transcript restriction is set for 3/30/2020. So we actually pull out these upcoming dates and display them right on the top. For motions and other items, you can actually add this to your calendar very easily just by clicking add over here, and then you can blast that out to your Outlook or whatever service that you use. In addition, tracking, automatically pulling information from the dockets. We can also add additional calendar items to the dockets themselves. And what we do is we actually analyze all of the local court rules so that you can actually use these local court rules to kind of calculate. I'm just going to calculate what's going to be happening soon. I'm going to show you what this looks like very briefly. Again, this is not terribly relevant to coronavirus, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But let's say that we have a trial set for August 1st, 2020. You can actually calculate all of the deadlines that would be triggered off of that trial here. You can see there's 8 deadlines that actually get triggered by the trial. So you can see that August 1st, 2020, there's a date of trial, and the day earlier is the last day to notify the court of settlement. And then back in May, there's the last day to make disclosures regarding expert testimony. If you add these 8 deadlines, they also can be synced directly to your Outlook calendar. So you can know not just what's happening in court, you can also know what will be happening in court. That's the idea. Okay, so this is kind of the basic idea of tracking cases. It's tracking, current existing cases. You can track other people's cases as well, and you can also track, kind of predict what's going to be happening in the future of cases. So with that, I'm going to kind of move on to searching because we'll come back to tracking in just a minute. But a lot of what staying up to date about on coronavirus is all about is we actually have to find cases that are relevant to coronavirus or COVID-19. And so how do you find these cases? You have to search for them. And the top of Docket Alarm right up here, you can, there's a search bar that is basically the entry gateway to all of the documents that are on Docket Alarm. Docket Alarm has a massive collection of documents and court dockets. We're approaching 300 million. I think we're at 285 or so right now. So I'm sorry, no, we hit 300 million. I think we're look at the number. I can't exactly remember the number. It's over 300 million. But what is it that we're actually searching? So I can type in just a simple search like employment litigation motion to dismiss. And we could even put some quotes. Actually, let's get rid of the word litigation. Everything's litigation. So let's say we want to find some sort of employment-related motion to dismiss. We can do that up there on the top. And by putting it in quotes, what we're doing is we're searching for that phrase motion to dismiss. And as you can see, we have 700,000 of these, which kind of doesn't surprise anybody. This is a pretty common motion file. And I just kind of want to go over some of these results here with you just to kind of give you a lay of the land, and then we're going to apply this to coronavirus and COVID-19. So just some things you'll notice here is that there's actually a bankruptcy case. We pull in bankruptcies. Here's a Delaware State Superior Court Newcastle County case, which is interesting. So there's quite a bit of different material here. We have state court cases, we have agencies. And just to give you a sense of what it is that we're searching, you just click this button, All Courts, up here. You get to see a list of all of our courts. And we lay it out in different categories. We have agency courts, obviously all the bankruptcy courts, federal cases. We have a lot of users that are particularly work in the patent and trademark space. So we kind of have a special category for patent courts and trademark courts. But let's just go through some of these a little bit. For our agencies, again, we cover a wide range of intellectual property courts, like the Patent Trial and Appeal Board, the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board. We also have all patent prosecution history. If there's any patent prosecutors on the call right now, they'll find this particularly useful. But it's not all just, our agencies are not just IP. We have the National Labor Relations Board, if there's any employment lawyers on the phone or organized labor attorneys on the phone. We have the U.S. Tax Court. We have the New Jersey State Tax Court, so that's a state agency. It's a good set of agencies for a wide array of practice areas. For federal, we have all federal district courts, all appellate courts. We have the Supreme Court and all of the Court of Federal Claims as well. So quite a variety of different, the complete set of all federal courts are in there. I'm going to skip patent just in light of moving things ahead. But as far as state courts, I suspect there's quite a few state court litigators here on the call today. Right now we cover, I think it's 24 states, although we're about to add 2 more in the next month. So, the larger high population states are all covered: California, Texas, Florida, New York. For Illinois, we have Cook County. We only have 1 county for Illinois right now, but it's Cook County. And we're adding, a lot of additional states as well. Arkansas and Missouri were just added, I think, a month or 2 ago. And we're going to be adding Massachusetts also within the next 6 weeks or so. So we're moving very rapidly to cover as much ground as we possibly can. I think that's it. I just wanted to actually point out another thing. These facets on the side kind of give you a very nice high-level picture of what's going on in your result set, so you can obviously see, how the level of documents that are in our system, how they kind of increase over time. You'll see this kind of ramp up pretty often on Docket Alarm. Docket Alarm has millions of documents in its system, but they tend to be from courts that have all been that have the documents electronically available. So before 2015, fewer courts were making these documents electronically available. So you kind of see this ramp up in a lot of our documents. You can also use these filters to kind of see how the breakdown. How you can see, for example, in New York State Supreme Court, we have almost 100,000 documents that mention motion to dismiss and employment, and you kind of can go down the list and see, we have Florida and a lot of other jurisdictions as well. So without further ado, I know I've been ramping this up a bit. Let's just take a little search for coronavirus. So just want to kind of lay out. I just thought we had a filter on the Supreme Court. Let's get rid of this. These actually look pretty relevant. But okay, so we have 716 results that mention either coronavirus or COVID-19. And I just wanted to kind of go through a few of these because these are actually pretty relevant to any practitioners in these jurisdictions. The first thing we see is, just quickly go through this case. First, when we see results, you get the docket ID number, you also get the court name, and the date that this either the case was filed. So this is very recent. Looking into this, you see it's not actually a lawsuit. So these are strange times. Normally, Docket Alarm only has lawsuits between parties. However, many courts fashion their standing orders as lawsuits. So you can see here, this is an in re case issued by the New York Southern District Court, and this is a standing order. So this is actually a standing order for the court operations there. And if you have cases that are pending inside at New York Southern District Court, it's incumbent upon you to kind of keep up to date on these standing orders and know when the courts are closing, when they're reopening, and being able to stay up to date on that is actually pretty imperative. I think this is, in many ways, one of the first steps you have to do with dealing with your active litigation, is just knowing what is the court actually ruling on here. And so you can see there's quite a few different jurisdictions that are doing this. They're issuing different orders for different types of things. Let's take a quick look over here on the facets on the side. You can see actually there's quite a big, unsurprisingly, the vast majority of the documents that are in our system were filed very recently, but pretty much all of them were filed just in March. But you can see that there's actually were a few earlier cases describing this, and we'll go into those, and I'll show you what those look like. We have about 20 more minutes, so I think we have plenty of time for this. So first, let's just take a look at the courts here. Actually, you know what I just realized? I was thinking the coronavirus, this was actually pretty low, 716. And I realized I just did an and up here. What we really want to be doing is for, so that we can pour the results together. So that's actually a lot bigger. So now we have 17,000 results. looking for either the word coronavirus or COVID-19. So those who are unfamiliar with it, COVID-19 is the term that's used to delineate a particular pandemic. Coronavirus is a much more general term. It actually refers to an entire family of viruses. So that's actually why you can see quite a bit of activity that actually happened earlier. So people have been working on coronaviruses for quite some time, and the COVID-19 is the more recent term. So if we were just looking only for COVID-19, we could do that as well. So let's take a quick peek. Actually, let's make one more change to the search query, just to kind of show you some of the power. We can actually just limit this to do some date limiting here. So let's just say we're only really interested in documents filed since January 1, 2020. Actually, let's make it a little bit earlier. Let's say like 12/1/2020. So just type in the date there. Oops. Use this slide. All right, so this is did it from January 19, 2019. This is much lower results, but you still get to see these standing orders here as well. There's a few other filters here that I think are pretty relevant to doing research in this area right now. One is, a lot of people are probably interested in seeing how is this affecting new case filings. How is coronavirus affecting my ability to file a case, or how is it affecting what other people are filing out there? So we can actually filter this down, this search down, by only looking for pleadings, that basically complaints, answers, replies to replies, and only looking for those to see how this is affecting new cases only. So if I do that, the search is going to further narrow down. So what is it we're looking for? We're really only looking for pleadings that mention the word coronavirus, COVID-19, that were filed since basically in the last year. And this actually really narrows it down considerably. So I want to kind of go through some of these and actually go into a little bit more substance. The first thing that you'll notice up here on the top, this is a TAS plus new application. This is actually a trademark application. Someone filed a trademark on the word vax, it looks like. And we can take a look at what this document looks like. So people are already out there trademarking either vaccines or pharmaceuticals, etc. Okay, so they actually trademark COVID-19 vax. It's not entirely clear if this is just an opportunist. We can take a quick look. Is this an opportunist trying to cash in on the name, or is this a company that's actually trying to develop a product? We get a little bit of detail by looking through this document. Something that we can also take a look at is not just actually, this kind of gives it away. This is not their email address here is an Outlook email address. It's probably not a trademark application filed by a large company. But we can actually take a quick look at it and click to view the full docket sheet. So this will bring us back from this document that was filed in this case to the actual the docket sheet that contains everything. And then we can click on them, and we can see that it's an individual who owns an LLC and is filing for this. This is not the new vaccine that we were hoping for. So this is kind of one type of thing that you can find on Docket Alarm. Let's take a look at another one. So here we're just looking for the second one. I actually did this a few minutes earlier to kind of scan some of these and find some interesting things in here. So here's a complaint that's filed. This is in New York Supreme Court, Bronx County. So it's a state court case. A lot of these cases are going to be filed in state courts. We'll see how that goes going forward. So this appears to be generally just a kind of a regular lawsuit that's filed, I believe. Let's take a look at the complaint here against a police officer. All right, so it's probably some sort of police incident. And if you scroll down to where they mention coronavirus, so there's in New York State there is General Municipal Law 50H that requires a victim of assault to be examined under certain circumstances medically. And here in their complaints, they allege that plaintiff has not yet been examined pursuant to this particular law. because due to coronavirus. So basically, they couldn't complete their pleadings and put everything into proper order when they filed this lawsuit due to coronavirus. I mean, it's going to be difficult to get a medical examination now that's related to a lawsuit, as our healthcare workers are focused on more pressing matters. So this could be pretty relevant to anyone who's actually thinking about filing a lawsuit. You can see that this examination might be delayed past the statute of limitations. There's going to be a lot of statute of limitation issues that are going to be coming up over the next 6 months. Lots of people are going to be missing them. A lot of those are by statute, so it's not something that a court can just quickly overrule or look past. It's probably something that's going to have to be legislated by Congress or the state courts. So tracking this case and seeing how it goes forward could be pretty helpful if you're in a similar situation to see what this judge is going to say in this particular case. So if you want, this case was just filed. What is this today? It's the 20th, 3 days ago. Tracking this case to stay up on top of it. It might not be your case, but if you have a similar issue that's popping up in your case for one of your clients, you may want to track this particular case to see how the judge rules on it. And they might put out a simple order that won't be. They might put out a simple one-line order saying we'll deal this later, and that will not be a published opinion. So that type of order will not pop up in other kind of legal research systems. It's only going to be available in a real docket system like Docket Alarm. So there's one or two other ones I kind of found a little bit interesting here. This one is from a pop culture reference. There's another complaint that was filed. This one is, I read this one earlier. It has to do with, we won't put the entire complaint on call today, but it's between Pauletrix and SME Entertainment Group. And this is over a concert that was going to be held with up to 16,000 people on March 10th to 13th in Salt Lake City. And basically, this conference was postponed because of coronavirus. I'm sure it alleges when here it says on March 3rd, they postponed it. And as a result, all the bands and the people who were supposed to perform in this concert were no longer able to do so. And in particular, the party at issue here is called SME, and they represent the Killers, which is a pretty popular, well-known band. Many of them, know about it. And this lawsuit is basically dealing with the fallout of that canceled conference. It's this document was filed. When was this filed? 3/12. This is over a week ago. Perhaps it was less clear back then how severe the pandemic was going to be. I strongly suspect the Killers will not want this kind of publicity kind of sticking event space to their contract in light of what's going on today. So I suspect that they will drop this lawsuit, but we can certainly expect that some people will not drop these lawsuits, and there's going to be quite a bit of litigation fallout concerning it. And being able to find similar examples, so here we can just go back to the docket sheet again, and we can pull it up, and actually we can update it. We're actually going to be pulling a fresh docket sheet from PACE directly. Look, and it looks like they tried to seal the document because probably plaintiffs didn't want to release the fact that the Killers were involved. But what we're going to see a lot more of this fallout from this global pandemic, and being on top of what's happening to event spaces, how these disputes are being settled. Do they have to rebook with the same company, or can they find another company, or how long do they have to rebook? Is it going to be a cash refund, a partial refund? There's a number of issues that are going to contract issues that are going to be coming up, and seeing how they play out in other cases can be helpful, because this is something that we have never experienced in any of our lifetimes before. So there's very little precedent to go on, and as a result, seeing what other judges are doing at the moment is basically one of the best things that we have. So let's just want to go through one other one, because there is there's this lawsuit. I'm not going to open it up. There's a complaint against the People's Republic of China. I took a quick look at it. It's not worth that much to mention right now. There is. I'm just over here on the left-hand side. I'm clicking on a courts, so you can actually filter by court. I found a few interesting cases. These are two interesting cases in San Francisco County courts. And there is one in Florida I want to bring up, Miami. So here are two cases that one is against Lyft and one is against Uber. And these are basically to try the long-standing, for quite some time, there's been a long fight in California of whether to classify Uber drivers and Lyft drivers as employees or as independent contractors. And this has been an ongoing fight. Seems to be that California is leaning towards classifying them as employees, but there's still quite a bit of litigation fallout that's coming out of it. And it's very clear that paid sick leave is going to be an issue for a lot of these drivers. A lot of the drivers are going to be exposed, and they are arguably providing a very critical service of transportation, getting people around. And with that exposure, there's going to be a lot of pressure on both Lyft and Uber to provide some sort of sick leave to these drivers. And you can see there's already two complaints that were filed about a week ago against Uber and Lyft. And I've already read through this document, but basically the legal issues are pretty similar to the other employment litigation issues that we've seen before. It's really, if they're an employee, they get paid sick leave. If they're an independent contractor, they do not. And it's kind of, I can follow up with these documents after the call, but generally it's going to be litigated again in this context. The next one I want to show is a Florida State court case. This was a case that was filed in Miami-Dade County. So here is what appears to be a class action lawsuit that was filed in Miami-Dade County against Amazon, and this has to do with price gouging. Generally, this is, I think, we're talking about, I believe this is about curiae, the hand sanitizer being with vendors on Amazon selling it at exorbitant rates. So this is, we're going to be seeing price gouging cases as well. These will be coming up, and curiae is one thing. We might see others with other types of critical medical devices and infrastructure like ventilators. And then there will be very likely some product liability fallout of this, because as in a rush to manufacture all these devices, some will be defective. So there's going to be a lot of different issues that are coming up. This is literally with about 45 minutes of searching. I came up with these handful of cases, but we have quite a few in here, and you can very quickly get up to date on what's going on, what's out there, and you can just track this search. So you can actually just set up the search for coronavirus or COVID-19. You track it, and you're going to get a stream into your daily inbox of all the new cases that are coming up. All right. So with that, I kind of showed tracking and searching. I really wanted to go today, and with 5 minutes left, because it's not. This is. I want to show you our analytics. This is not relevant at the moment to COVID-19, but it will be very, very soon. Right now, there are so few cases that are filed around COVID-19. Understandably, I mean, this is a developing situation that there isn't so much precedent, right? Everything is going to be very, very much a case of first impression, given the severity of what's going on. However, over time, things, we hope, will start to become more routine and balance out. There will be more standard approaches to dealing with the statute of limitations. There will be more standard approaches for dealing with the product liability fallout, and more certainty there. And as that develops, we actually have other tools that can actually help figure out what the development is. Docket Alarm has litigation analytics, and I'm just going to show this for 2 or 3 minutes. But the idea is what we can do is, in addition to searching for individual cases, we can actually run searches across an entire spectrum of cases and try to figure out what's happening across those spectrum of cases. So here I'm just pulling up some very basic statistics on patent cases. This has nothing to do with COVID-19. We are working on putting something together specifically for COVID-19, so we can actually pull out data and see kind of high-level information on what's going on with the pandemic in litigation. But right now, it's a little bit too early for that. But what you can see here is you can see how often, how many cases, different types of cases pop up. So, we could put something together and see how many foreclosures come up. We can see how often motions win or lose this particular type of motion. You can see how often they're granted or denied. As far as business development goes, this will eventually be an issue. There's going to be some law firms that specialize in the fallout of this pandemic. So, we can see which law firms have specialty there. You can see which attorneys have specialty in these particular areas. Here's a big ranking of attorneys, and also companies as well. So the idea is we could pull out which companies are getting sued or suing the most in different areas of the law. So what I'm showing you again, just to reiterate, what I'm showing you here is for patent litigation. What we're trying to do, though, overall, is use statistical tools to help get a picture of what's going on, rather than going through a case by case by case. That works for 10, 50, 100 cases. But when you have 10,000, 50,000 cases, 100,000 cases, a million cases, you can't go through them one by one. You need statistical tools to help you kind of figure out what's happening in litigation. And that's an area that Docket Alarm provides here as well. So, with that, I think I kind of 2 minutes left for questions. I think we can probably go over a little bit. But just to go back to the overview here, Docket Alarm's tools really, number one, stay on top of your own litigation and litigation that's highly relevant to your litigation. Track it. Make sure you know what's going on. Make sure that you know what's going on in court with these standing orders and how they're changing and developing. Searching, trying to find those cases that are relevant to yours. I mean, if you have sick leave, a case involving paid sick leave for some clients, maybe a class of clients, looking at those Uber cases or those Lyft cases might be very, very helpful to you, even if it's not particularly about classifying employees as independent contractors or not. And then eventually, as these cases add up and as we see more of them, as they go from the few to the tens to the thousands to the millions maybe, then we can start using analytical tools and statistical tools to really start helping us out. So this is kind of our approach to our toolkit that we can provide. We're one small piece in this big struggle here, but we're trying to do whatever we can to help out. One last thing, I completely forgot to mention this. We are giving this tool away for free for anyone working on pro bono matters, at least for the next 3 months, probably very likely much longer than that, or as long as we deem necessary. So if there are any attorneys working on pro bono matters that would see this information useful, please definitely reach out to support@docketalarm.com, and we will get you set up with a free account immediately. All right, thank you very much. I think I will head it. I haven't done one on this system. I don't know how to give Erin back control.
Oh, I just took it.
There you go. All right.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was fantastic. We do have a couple of questions from the questions box. I'm just going to read them to you so we can get the answers for everyone. The first question was, will Docket Alarm allow you to see pleadings on dockets that do not normally give access to the pleadings through Pacer?
So, no, we do not get around Pacer. The answer is we don't have some special system to kind of subvert Pacer in any way. You can think of Docket Alarm. All of our documents come from the courts themselves through official channels. So if it's not on Pacer, it's not going to be on Docket Alarm. If it's a sealed document, it's not going to be on Docket Alarm. And if it's a paper-only document that's buried in a court's warehouse that is only accessible by showing up there, it's also not going to be on Docket Alarm. It's really only it's a layer on top of all the electronic resource systems that provide you searching capabilities, tracking capabilities, calendaring capabilities, that sort of thing.
Understood. And the second question that we had was regarding a specific jurisdiction. Does Docket Alarm have the documents for cases filed in Cook County? Not just the dockets, but the documents themselves.
Great question. Getting access to those things is, we are actually in touch with them. It's not an easy task to get those. No, we have the docket sheets for Cook County. We do not have the documents. It's high on our priority list, though.
Excellent. So those were the two questions that were during the presentation. If anyone has any questions as a follow-up to the presentation, I want to reiterate Michael's call to have you email us at support@docketalarm.com. Or if you have questions, please feel free to call us at 866-773-2782 and select the option for Docket Alarm. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for today's presentation, and we hope you'll join us next week as well. We'll be touching on one of our other internal products at that time, so keep an eye on social media and your email for the invite for that session as well.
Thank you all. Thank you, Aaron. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Stay
everyone.
safe.